Hey guys, Gray Gray here. Welcome to this video here on Raven Gaming's YouTube channel. Joined today by my esteemed colleague, King Costi.
Well, thank you, sir.
And we have just watched the trailer for Black Myth Wukong, and it's absolutely floored us, and we thought we'd make a video to discuss it. We could not wait, and we just thought we'd get this out there. So welcome to the first video of this type on our Raven Gaming channel. Enjoy. We have had the pleasure today of watching an amazing launch trailer, should we call it, for something that has very much piqued our interest. So we thought we'd jump online and we do our first of this type of video and kind of just go through our impressions of the overall trailer, what we expect, what we want, and talk about our love of this game already. So yeah, Costi, come on, man. What's your impressions?
Yeah, completely took me by surprise when I first saw the video pop up on a couple of websites. I watched it, and then 13 minutes later, I was like, wow, take all my money and let me have this game. It was amazing. Completely surprised out of the blue. I mean, we've been talking for the last couple of weeks that we've been waiting for a game that will excite us for next generation, and I truly think this is the first game that's done that. Game is based on Journey to the West, which also inspired Dragon Ball and Monkey Magic, depending on where you're from. And not just because of that, but just looking at the trailer and the game itself, the setting looks beautiful. All the artwork and character design is amazing.
I mean, it is definitely a beautiful game. So I've got the trailer running right now, and it's not dark and dingy in any way, shape, or form, is it? It's so bright, it's so colourful, and it's fluid. Like the world looks so alive. It's amazing. You know how much, I mean, I think at the moment we're actually taking a moment out from playing Mortal Shell to record this video, and our love of Souls-likes is quite known within the Raven Gaming group, and this looks a bit like a Souls-like game, so I'm imagining it's going to have that. I do see little elements of Jedi Fallen Order. Gives me that kind of impression because of the overall way in which you move around the map. It doesn't look like it's a giant open world. It looks like it's more like hubs. But my God, is it beautiful!
There's so many little details that I noticed in this video that's amazing. I mean, we was looking at the website prior to this, and they were saying that they put this out as a way to interest people to join their team and help them with the development of this game. But looking at the trailer, it looks amazing as it is. But more than likely, this is a vertical slice, something that shows off all the mechanics and designs they put in the game so far.
Yeah.
Just watching the video, the bit where he's doing the stealth, where he turns into the fly, really cool touch. I think, that's a good way of putting a new spin on an old idea. Instead of having the standard stealth mechanics, you have this built in with the transformation.
Yeah, it's not so much just crouch in a bush and hope for the best. It's fully become an aspect of the environment that no one's going to pay any attention to. I think that's quite interesting, and I think that, if we look at what it is that's drawing us towards this game, I think a lot of it is probably intrigue as well, because we are wondering, oh my God, what is this going to be? What's the final product going to be like? If this is a pre-alpha, what's going to look like when it's finished? It'd be amazing. But I think for me, if you are watching it, and I didn't even realize this, but when he turns into the cicada, he flies past a giant ogre. I don't know if you noticed that. Like a huge blue ogre.
Yes.
And I haven't seen that before, but I'd love to see how that kind of mechanic in a game. Obviously, there's a cooldown bar. I can see that much for sure.
Yeah.
But how much does it change up the traversal of the game? You could theoretically just piece out past half of the map if you couldn't be bothered to play them, and just turn into a cicada and fly away. No one's going to stop you. It's interesting.
Yeah, very, very interesting. There's a lot of stuff to decipher from the video we've seen. I was looking at it myself and was trying to figure out the bars, and I think one is for health, one is for stamina, and there's a blue bar. I wasn't too sure what that was for, but interesting. Probably linked towards maybe the abilities you can use, but I'm not too sure at the moment. We'll have to see later on in the game.
It could also be like mana.
True, very true.
Maybe.
Also, another thing I liked within the trailer that we saw was, obviously, it does kind of look a bit like Fallen Order, probably because of the way the lightsaber is used. I like the bit where he's taking on multiple enemies. It doesn't seem as much of a gank fest as you get in the other games, and that probably has something to do with the range of the weapon that he's using, with it being a bow staff instead of a sword. But I guess when we play the game, as with a lot of these Souls-like games, you have to find that fine balance between attack and defense, knowing how much damage the enemy is going to deal out, as opposed to how much damage you can deal out, and then move in and move out with your attacks. Be interesting to see how that works within this game. To be fair,
it looks like the combat looks like the dual lightsaber combat.
Yeah,
It reminds me a lot of that. I would like to see if there's obviously, we can go into what we see in this. We see him get that flame staff, which looks like a double-ended sword, and that changes up his combat when he uses it later on fighting the wolf. Now, I'd be quite interested to see if there's other weapons, maybe like axes or swords, which would then even change the combat up even more, I suppose, because obviously moving to a one-handed weapon in comparison to this long pole would be quite good. A lot of the gameplay we're seeing is very much kind of that weapon centric.
Yeah.
As even if you see later on when he's in the clouds and he looks like he's in like a kind of like a deva form or like a god form, and he's got the pole extends massively and he's just literally whipping it around, just knocking all these dudes out. Like, we don't see anything like another, like a sword or an axe or anything like that. It's all basically these pole arm
type weapons. Yeah, it's that clip particularly I thought was amazing. It's kind of like when they do development videos to show you how many different characters they can have on screen at once, and seeing that was a great example. Up in the clouds, the big pole, brilliant piece of gameplay. Also, going back to that, the fire staff, the double sword, I was thinking the theory I had was perhaps there are different enemies or allies within the world that you can meet or defeat, and when you do that, you get new weapons or transformations. Within the story itself, as part of the lore, they said that the Monkey King can transform into 72 different forms, like different animals and insects, and they're saying that's going to be in the game. So it would be interesting to see how you will acquire all those different abilities and transformations going through. There's a gang fight in the game where we see he transforms into a wolf. He starts doing like these shockwave attacks where he's hitting the ground. Just has a lot of questions, but then also there are a lot of answers shown within this trailer as we're seeing different transformations and different pieces of gameplay. Honestly, though, this is a great trailer, and I say it's out of the blue because we've heard nothing about it before. This is the first thing they've put out, and it's a trailer with gameplay. It's flawless. Came out only earlier today, and already there's so many different websites that have picked up on this. They're saying that Microsoft and Sony need to get in contact with these people. They need to make sure that this game is part of their portfolio for the next generation. I think we both feel that as well, because it's just completely and utterly captured the imagination. They're saying it's already been in development for, say, two and a half years. So I'm hoping with the release of this trailer, if they can get a good team behind them, maybe 3 years, we should see a finished product. But it's always hard to say with these things.
I hope it's not an exclusive.
I was going to ask you that question. If say, for example, this was an exclusive, say, for example, PlayStation or PC exclusive, for example, because I was thinking for myself, if it was a PC exclusive, like if it only came out on stream, would that change my mind and make me lean towards something else? Would this entice you to a PlayStation if it ended up being a PlayStation exclusive?
Actually, yeah, I think this is a system seller for me. If you were to turn around tomorrow and say this game is available in its entirety on the PS5 from day one, I would buy a PS5 from day one. Yeah. This is impressive. And I'd say that, I'm quite a critic when it comes to AAA games, especially, and I've not been this hyped for a game in ages, and it's a game I'm worried I may never actually play if it never comes out, but I'm going to keep my eye on this for a very long time. And all they need to do is just keep providing me with even half the amount of entertainment I get from this trailer to keep me on board. I think the trailer's left me with questions, but enough answers as well. I mean, you can see that I think from what I can gather, what's going to happen is as he progresses, he's going to come across different spiritual aspects of maybe himself, who he has to combat, and when he does defeat them, he develops their skill. Because obviously that guy with the fire double sword, you turn into that exact character when you're fighting the wolf. You become that character. You're no longer him. You become the guy you were fighting with him. Yeah. And then in the end, you see when he goes to strike the wolf, he's stopped by what looks like a more godly version of himself. And you can see towards the end of the trailer, it shows you can play as that guy. So maybe he's someone you also fight. You get his weapon. and then that gives you the ability to become that character. And if that's the case, I'd be quite happy with that. If on the fly I could choose to become, I don't know, say a wolf with a double sword, boom, I can completely change out my way of fighting, my movements and so on and so forth. And it's quite ingenious if that's how they go down that route. Giant bosses as well are always a massive draw for me. And that final scene with those 4 huge statues, I know when he's flying around on the Nimbus with the dragon, I had a small little a nerdgasm instantaneously. I was like, I want to kill that dragon, because when you see a dragon in a game like that, you're like, well, that's gonna have to die.
Yeah. Of all the things I saw in the trailer, the Nimbus is the thing that probably excited me the most, knowing what this game was based on. But yeah, as you're saying, with the statues, we see a lot of epic boss battles in the end of this. There seems to be sort of like a bird, eagle boss that he does battle with. There also seems to be sort of like a bug larvae boss. The statues, as you mentioned, the one thing I picked up on is it looks like there are a lot of concepts here that have been fleshed out, different areas, different enemies. So it looks like the concept is completed, and maybe getting more people in as part of the team is to just help them develop the scope, instead of it being like a half AAA game, something similar to Hellblade. Instead, it will be a fully fledged game. Also, I noticed something with the form changes there. There seems to be a timer for 100 seconds. I'm wondering if the transformations last. Well, obviously they last for 100 seconds, but then also if maybe you can be kicked out of these transformations if you take too much damage. But what do you think about the abilities? Obviously, we've spoken about the transformation one. I also noticed that there's a freeze one, fixing magic. There is a harden ability, which looks sort of like a block. I didn't see necessarily a standard block within the game. And then also there's the doppelganger ability, where he seems to spawn clones of himself. Looks very cool.
Yeah. As I like to call it, shadow clone no jutsu. Yeah, I mean that is very, very intriguing. And just watching back now, you can see when he creates the clones, the blue bar does go down. So I'm guessing that's like a spell bar. I like it. I think it's good. I also like the way the wolf just gets rid of them. I think it looks like you can probably, I'm guessing from what I can see, is that you have the abilities, because in this fight you see him freeze the wolf, you see him do the doppelgangers, and you see him harden, so he turns to stone when the wolf tries to hit him. And then I think probably you'll have one transform at a time, and you have to choose which transform you're going to have, not on the fly, but before you enter a battle. Because the transform seems to work in a different mode. Like you said, you've got a 100-second timer. It's a similar timer to when you turn into the cicada. So chances are you choose, depending on what part of the game you're in, you have to maybe go into a menu to choose the transformation you want, whether it's the giant gorilla, the wolf with the double swords, or the cicada, and then you can then utilize that for a certain period of time, and it's just on the cooldown. I'm assuming it's a case of if you die in that, you die, and then once it runs out, you turn back into normal. But no, it looks amazing, and from a gameplay point of view, you can see how you could very much vary your own style. It's like it's more Souls-like in the combat than Fallen Order was, because within Fallen Order you were very much limited to what you could do, because you had your force abilities and your saber, that's it. Whereas in this, you can literally change up who you are and how you're playing at a moment's notice, and that's amazing to me. And that's not saying you can do that in Dark Souls, but you can kind of switch out your weapons on the fly. And I think they're kind of, it's going to make an interesting twist to the way the game's going to play out. But it just looks amazing.
I'm definitely interested to see how the map's going to be set out, if it is going to be like we were talking about last week in From Software games and Dark Souls games, where they have that ring set up, if it will be something similar to that, if it will be open world, if it will be or if it will just be a linear story game where you're going to travel through. I mean, they kind of said that it's going to be an RPG, so that leads me to believe that, I mean, if you're collecting all these different transformations, if there's going to be 72 different transformations, that's going to be a lot of content, a lot of areas to go in to find those things. Maybe you won't find all 72 within the game. Maybe that will be part of the end game appeal for it as well. You complete the game, you're trying to find these strong enemies so you can get their transformations as well, because that would be really cool.
Yeah, that would be good. It'd be good if they're not. I think if it's kind of like Ghost of Tsushima did it, where it's you could go through the entire game without unlocking any of them. I'd like that. I'd like it to be the case, you know, if you go to this deep dark cave, you're going to find a very hard boss. You get some sort of weapon that's just going to make you super powerful. You know, that kind of risk reward, you know, high risk, high reward. If it's that kind of gameplay, that would definitely keep me involved. I think by the look of it, if you look at the trailer and what they're showing, obviously this is all subject to change because it could not end up coming out for a couple of years yet, but I'd say it looks like it's going to support maybe hub with spoke worlds. Because you look, the environments are so different. You've got it's quite a deserty looking environment when you're fighting the bug. You got the cloud environment, which is obviously up in the clouds where you fight that bird creature. It's very wet, and it kind of reminds me of the palace from Sekiro. So they're very different. You know, even the first area, which I'm assuming is the first area where you fight the wolf, is very lush and green, and that's very different to the kind of rest of it you see in that little snippet at the end when it goes through all the different worlds. So I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it'd be 100% linear. I think it will be quite. I don't think it will be open world, if that makes any sense. I don't think you could achieve a game like this in a true open world, and I wouldn't want to see it either. I think it'd be a bit too big. But hub and spoke, I'd be happy with. But yeah, so now we just have to wait. I suppose what we could do is keep an eye on it, and if it comes to it and there's any updates, we can always publish some more videos. If that's what people want to see, that'd be good to see. Good to know. But I definitely will be keeping my eye on this, very, very close eye on this, and I'm sure you will be too.
This will be one to watch for the future.
Definitely. Thanks guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed our videos. The first one we've done like this. If you do enjoy it, leave a like, subscribe by all means, and leave us a comment of anything you think we could do to improve in the future. Thanks for listening.